Hey guys, tonight we travel beneath the blistering Egyptian sun into a dusty world where gold glints in the shadows and something ancient watches you back. You're standing in the Valley of the Kings. It's 1922, and your clothes are already soaked through from the heat. Dry winds hiss over your skin like whispers in a forgotten tongue. You squint, brushing sand from your face, and hear the scrape of a pickaxe against rock. Somewhere nearby, the earth groans. You're part of an excavation team, though let's be real, you're mostly hauling buckets and avoiding camel spit. But you're here, and today, you're lucky. Maybe. A narrow trench deepens beneath your boots. The dig has been dragging on for years, led by a man named Howard Carter. He's intense, focused, and a little frayed around the edges from too many false leads and not enough champagne. His benefactor, Lord Carnarvon, is growing impatient. After all, even British millionaires get bored when their ancient treasure hunt turns into glorified ditch digging. And yet, something's different today. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I want to know who else is wandering the sands with us tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You crouch beside Carter as he wipes dust from a step. Just one step. But it's unmistakably man-made. Cut stone, not rock. And more. The faint outline of a doorway buried in the gravel. You lean in, heart ticking faster than the desert flies buzzing around your ears. Carter doesn't say a word. Not yet. There's a moment, just a breath, before the excitement catches up. The men stop working. Silence. Even the wind hesitates. Then, get more men, carefully. What you've just stumbled onto isn't a random tomb fragment. It's an entrance. Undisturbed, not looted, not even catalogued. You can feel it in your bones. This is what Carter's been hunting across the entire Theban necropolis. And deep down, your gut does a little nervous flip, because things this well-preserved don't usually stay that way unless someone or something wants them to be left alone. Later that evening, as the dig team gathers their gear and the sun dips below the cliffs, a thin layer of gold catches the fading light. A clay seal, intact, stamped with a cartouche you don't recognize. Carter whispers a single name, Tutankhamun. The name feels unfamiliar, like it shouldn't matter, and yet it pulls at something inside you. The valley, once loud with shouting and hammering, feels suddenly watched. No birds, no wind, no movement. Lord Carnarvon, summoned with urgency, arrives weeks later, irritated at first, then enraptured. If this is truly undisturbed, he says, squinting into the darkness, then we're about to become very, very famous. Or infamous. But nobody adds that part. Tents spring up. Cameras are loaded. Journals flipped open. Letters sent home in stiff, sweat-stained envelopes. You are here, on the cusp of history. But something about that doorway gnaws at your nerves, like it's not a beginning, but a warning. One local worker murmurs a phrase you can't quite translate. Carter waves it off. Superstition, he says. Still, a guard is posted near the tomb entrance. Not for looters, for peace of mind. You're told not to worry, but that little twist in your gut, it's still twisting. Back in your tent, you dream of gold masks and dead eyes, of walls closing in and hands wrapped in linen reaching from the dark. When you wake up, there's sand in your mouth. You didn't sleepwalk, but your boots are covered in it. Morning comes. It's finally time. Carter chisels through the sealed door, a small hole just big enough for a lantern and one dusty eyeball. He peers inside. You're standing next to him, barely breathing. He's trembling. "Can you see anything?" Carnarvon whispers. Carter doesn't answer immediately. Then he mutters, "Yes. Wonderful things." That's the quote they print in every book. What they don't mention is that he turned pale, wiped his forehead, and whispered something else to himself. But they're watching. From that moment, things change. The team begins cataloging every inch. Gold shrines stacked like nesting dolls. Gilded beds shaped like mythical beasts. Thrones, chariots, even old jars still sealed with ancient honey. The air smells faintly of resin and something older, like time itself has gone rancid. Historians agree this was one of the greatest archaeological discoveries ever made. And yet, one of the workers collapses from heat stroke. A photographer drops his plate glass negatives, then swears he saw movement behind the sarcophagus. A scorpion's sting nearly kills a translator. You begin to notice something odd. Every time someone jokes about the mummy's curse, something minor goes wrong. A cut, a fever, a broken wrist. It's probably coincidence. Definitely superstition. Right? Still, you find yourself stepping lightly, speaking softly, watching shadows. And one night, you dream again. This time it's clearer. A boy's voice, soft, hoarse, and angry. "You shouldn't have come." You wake with your hand clutching your chest, fingers digging into your shirt like you were trying to pull something out. The tomb is open now, but so is something else. And it's just getting started. Section 2. The sun hangs low over the Valley of the Kings, casting long, jagged shadows across the broken ridges of stone. You stand at the tomb entrance, watching Carter's team work with the precision of men who know they've just unearthed a legend, and also that one wrong move could bring centuries of wrath crashing down. They've broken through the outer seal, but what lies beyond is still unknown. A passageway curves downward, sealed again with rubble and limestone. Carter mutters something under his breath, probably wishing ancient Egyptians had opted for less enthusiastic interior design. You help clear the debris. The deeper you go, the cooler the air becomes. It's almost refreshing, until you realize it carries a strange scent. Earthy, like old paper and dried flowers, but sharper, like embalming resin, or decay that's learned patience. The corridor leads to another sealed doorway. This one's rougher, plastered hastily, as if someone tried to lock the door after the tomb was already completed. The plaster bears the official necropolis seal, crossed jackals, the mark of the royal tombs. But it's off, too clean, almost fresh, not something laid thousands of years ago. Someone came back after the burial, Carter says, frowning. Or someone was trying to keep something in. You laugh a little to cut the tension, but nobody joins you. This is the door, the real one, and it shouldn't exist. Most tombs, when found, are ransacked, empty, or only partially preserved. But not this. There are no signs of grave robbers, no torch marks or broken vessels. Even the dust lies in perfect, untouched drifts. It's as if the tomb itself refuses to be disturbed. Carter reaches for his chisel again. He stops, looks around. Did anyone else hear that? You didn't hear anything, but now that he's said it, you're suddenly convinced you did. A rustling, a shuffle, maybe a whisper in a language that predates sand. Historians still argue whether this was a burial chamber sealed in chaos or ritual. Some claim the second doorway suggests a rushed, secretive reburial. Others say it's just a fluke of ancient architecture. But everyone agrees. Double-sealed tombs are rare. This wasn't normal. You stand back as Carter chips into the plaster. The final wall falls away. Behind it lies darkness, pure, uninterrupted, and heavy. Lanterns flicker to life. Carter leads the way, ducking under a low doorway and stepping into the unknown. You follow. And suddenly, you're inside. It's smaller than expected. The first chamber is crammed wall to wall with treasures, beds, statues, boxes, shields, chairs stacked on top of each other like a pharaoh's garage sale. Everything is gilded. Everything glows, except one thing, a tall black statue near the wall. It's Anubis, the jackal-headed god of the dead, perched like a guard dog over a chest. His eyes are made of glass and obsidian, and they seem to follow you. You inch past, your foot accidentally brushing the base. It feels warm. You don't mention it. As you and the others explore, you begin to notice the meticulous order of things. This isn't just treasure hoarded in a rush. Every item, even the broken ones, has been arranged for function, symbolism, or spiritual significance. The Egyptians weren't just burying a boy. They were preparing him for eternity. But there's still more. A small side room, half collapsed, holds two tiny coffins. Infants. Stillborn daughters of the Pharaoh, maybe. Their lids are carved with the faces of sleeping girls. Peaceful. Too peaceful. You look away quickly. The final chamber lies beyond another set of doors, gilded, flaking. Carter pauses before opening them. He turns to the team and says, "Once we see him, everything changes." Then the doors swing open, and there he is. The sarcophagus of Tutankhamun, nested inside 4 shrines, one inside the next like giant wooden puzzles. At the center, coffin upon coffin, lies the boy king, golden, serene, barely older than you were when you first learned what death was. You want to feel awe. Instead, you feel exposed, like the room is full of eyes, not just the sculpted ones painted on the walls, but others, hidden ones. Watching you remind yourself, this is history, a marvel. You're just tired, overworked, maybe dehydrated, or maybe it's something else. One of the workers drops a tool. It echoes louder than it should. Then something strange. Behind the sarcophagus is a blank wall. Carter taps it, solid. Then he notices a faint seam. He steps back and stares. There's more, he says. There's something beyond. Another door. This one is different. No seals, no warnings, no gods, just stone. What's behind it? Nobody knows. Carter decides to wait, to document everything before moving on. But that night, one of the Egyptian workers quits. Doesn't pack. Doesn't speak. Just walks into the desert and disappears. And that's when Carter's canary dies. A small, bright bird kept in a cage near his tent. The workers had nicknamed it the lucky bird, saying it brought blessings from the tomb. Now, its cage is overturned. The bird's tiny neck is snapped. Outside the tent, a cobra slithers away into the dark. In Egyptian mythology, the cobra was the protector of pharaohs, the uraeus, worn on the forehead of royalty. To kill a cobra is to challenge the throne. To be visited by one, well, that's a message. A few of the locals murmur that the gods are angry, that the curse has begun. Carter dismisses it all. Coincidence, he says, but he doesn't replace the bird. And the next morning, he doesn't smile. From then on, the sight feels heavier. The air inside the tomb grows colder, too cold. Tools go missing. Men get sick. The generator fails for no reason. The food spoils faster than normal. You tell yourself it's just the desert. But you start to dream again. This time the boy is closer. You see his mask, gold and blue, his eyes inlaid with lapis lazuli. He doesn't speak. He just stares. Then you wake up with sand in your mouth again, and the feeling that you're still not alone. Section 3. The next morning starts quiet, almost too quiet, as if the desert itself is holding its breath. You step back into the tomb, now fully aware that each creak of the wooden floorboards, each drip of moisture from the tomb walls, carries more weight than before. Your torchlight flickers slightly as you pass the black statue of Anubis again. You swear it's standing a bit closer than yesterday. But you don't test that theory. Today is the day the innermost coffin will be opened. The nested shrines have already been dismantled, the outer golden coffins removed with excruciating care. Inside the last one lies a human figure, a boy, fragile and shrouded in dark linen, hidden beneath a face mask so blindingly golden it forces you to blink. Tutankhamun. He's more beautiful than you expect. The mask isn't just gold, it's alive with detail. Inlaid eyes, false beard, broad collar made of turquoise, lapis, and carnelian. You stare at it longer than you mean to. But beneath the mask, that's where things get strange. Carter, trying to remove the linen wrappings, pauses. Something's wrong. The bandages are stuck, melted almost, as if the body had been cooked. Historians still argue whether this was a botched mummification or deliberate sabotage. Some suggest his embalmers used too much oil, igniting a chemical reaction that literally cooked his remains over time. Others wonder if it was an accident caused by haste. Tut died young suddenly, and perhaps not everything went according to plan. What you know for sure, it smells bad. Really bad. Resin, ash, something sharper. Carter grimaces. He's fused. It takes hours, scalpels, and a stomach of steel to separate the mask from the skull. What's underneath is far from royal. The skin has turned black and brittle. The ribs are missing. The chest cavity has collapsed. And the penis, yes, people check, is conspicuously missing too. Some say it was stolen. Others think it was destroyed in the mummification fire. A few believe it was symbolic, part of an ancient curse or spell to keep the king from reproducing in the afterlife. Charming. You turn away, not just from the sight, but from the realization. This wasn't a peaceful death, not even a peaceful burial. This was messy, and messy burials in ancient Egypt. They didn't happen by accident. Carter doesn't say it, but the expression on his face makes it clear. This isn't just an excavation anymore. It's an autopsy. The mood among the team grows heavier. One man quits without explanation. Another develops a strange rash. A third falls down the steps and breaks his leg. You try not to connect the dots, but at night, the dreams come faster. Tutankhamun doesn't just stare now. He moves. You see flashes of his childhood, corridors in the palace, arguments with priests, a mother figure with a soft voice but hard eyes. You feel his pain, his isolation, the pressure on a child to rule, to marry, to die, and to be buried under layers of expectations, curses, and gold. He's talking now, but you can't understand him. The words are too old. One night you awaken to find sand on your pillow. Again. But there's also something else. The golden scarab pendant you helped document last week. It's lying next to you. You didn't take it. You didn't even touch it. You return it the next morning. No one asks questions. Instead, they're focused on the X-rays taken of Tut's body. His leg is shattered. Not cracked. Obliterated. Splintered bone, crushed flesh. One doctor thinks it happened right before death. Some argue it was post-mortem damage during burial. Others, they whisper it looks more like a deliberate injury, as if someone broke him. You ask Carter about the rumors. He shrugs, but doesn't deny them. King or not, he says, someone didn't want him to live. The story of Tut's death is still hotly debated. Malaria, a fall, murder by advisors, or maybe, just maybe, something darker. His father, Akhenaten, was a religious heretic. Tut may have been cleaning up the mess, and someone didn't like that. Meanwhile, the press starts sniffing around. Word leaks out that a royal mummy has been found. Perfectly preserved, they say. Cursed, others say. Journalists swarm Cairo. They want blood, treasure, or both. Carter tries to control the narrative, but it's too late. The curse has entered the public imagination, and the truth is, the facts are weird enough to feed it. Tut was buried with over 5,000 objects, daggers made from meteorites, lifelike sandals for the afterlife. A dagger tucked into his wrappings that appears too advanced for its time, crafted with techniques historians still don't fully understand. That one gets under your skin. You start imagining the dagger sliding out of the tomb one night, searching, choosing. Carter orders the tomb sealed again for a while. Preservation reasons, he says. But a few workers mutter, it's because they woke him up. And maybe they're right. Because that night, the dreams hit like a wave. Tut isn't a child anymore. He's grown. In the dream, he wears the mask, not over his face, as his face. He's walking toward you. Behind him, walls ripple with hieroglyphs. Jackals howl. The sky turns black. You try to wake up. You can't. When you do finally jolt awake, you're outside, in the sand, barefoot, alone. You look back toward the tomb, and you swear you see movement just inside the entrance. A flicker, a shadow. Maybe someone else is working late, or maybe someone else never left. Section 4. Morning crawls back into the Valley of the Kings like it forgot something. You're dragging your boots across camp, brushing grit from your hair, when the news slams into you like a chariot. Lord Carnarvon is dead. Not caught a cold dead. Not got old dead. No sudden, bizarre, poetic dead. You sit in stunned silence as Carter reads the telegram aloud. The words feel like a movie script, except no one's acting, and the cameras haven't even arrived yet. A mosquito bite. That's what they say did it. Carnarvon had been shaving in Cairo, cut himself by accident, nothing dramatic. But within days, the bite became infected. His fever spiked. Then, just after midnight, during a violent thunderstorm, the lights in Cairo blinked out. He gasped once, and then he was gone. The cause? Blood poisoning, septicemia. That's the official story. But you know better. Everyone does, because here's the thing. The bite was in the exact same place as a wound found on Tutankhamun's mummy, on the cheek. Creeped out yet? You're not alone. Newspapers eat it up. They use phrases like Pharaoh's revenge and the mummy's curse like candy wrappers. Back home, people whisper that Carnarvon disturbed something that wanted to stay buried. They're not exactly wrong. Even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, gets in on the fun. He blames elemental spirits, basically ancient Egyptian ghost gremlins. But you're not laughing, because the hits keep coming. 2 weeks after Carnarvon's death, his dog, back in England, lets out a horrible howl and drops dead. Same moment, middle of the night. Coincidence? Depends how much you like sleeping. You try to stay rational. But now everyone is spooked. A porter who touched the tomb collapses mysteriously. A radiologist who x-rayed the mummy dies of a rare blood disease. One of the team's financiers dies of a heart attack. One of Carter's friends falls down the stairs, breaks his neck. You do the math. The coincidences are piling up like mummified cats. And Carter? Carter doesn't flinch. He insists there's no curse. He keeps working, keeps cataloging, keeps writing. But there's something different about him now. He walks slower, looks over his shoulder more. You find him one night staring at a statue, one of Tut's guardian figures. It's massive, dark, and covered in dust. He's not studying it. He's just staring. He doesn't notice you. That's when you learn about the missing note. Carnarvon, shortly before his death, had supposedly written a letter, something he intended to give Carter, or perhaps publish. Nobody ever finds it. Some say it was a confession, that he believed the tomb held more than just treasure, that he felt watched, marked. Others think Carter destroyed it, either to protect the dig or himself. Historians still argue whether the note existed at all, or if it's just another delicious detail in a story too good to be true. But one thing is true. Carnarvon was healthy. Then he wasn't. And it started after he entered that tomb. You begin to wonder what you're carrying with you. The sand clings to your skin differently now. Your dreams turn louder. You wake up hearing your name whispered in a voice that sounds ancient and childlike at the same time. You catch yourself talking to the air, asking forgiveness. You're not religious, but you've started carrying a charm, just in case. Carter notices, doesn't comment. But he's got something in his pocket too, something small and gold. There's another problem. One of the team photographers captures an image of the burial chamber. When the plate is developed, there's an extra figure in the room. Blurry, half faded, not wearing modern clothes. The negative is mysteriously lost a few days later. You don't talk about that one. Instead, you focus on the work. You help pack artifacts, tag items, write notes. The British Museum is hungry for treasure. Cairo's local press, however, is starting to ask questions. Whose tomb is it really? Who gave the British the right to own it? You don't answer. You just keep moving, keep dreaming. One night, you're walking near the cliffs, watching the moon rise when you hear a voice say, "He wasn't supposed to die." You spin around. No one's there. You sleep in your tent with the lantern on. Still, the valley grows quieter by the day. Even the workers speak less. Some refuse to enter the tomb at all. One brings a small amulet and nails it above the entrance. It's meant to ward off evil spirits. You don't laugh. You nail one above your own cot, too. And then, just when things settle slightly, someone falls ill again. A visitor from England. A baron this time. He saw the tomb 2 weeks ago. Now he's coughing up blood. Doctors say it's pneumonia. He dies. The newspapers run wild. Another victim of the mummy's curse. You lose count of the body count. Some say it's over 20. Others say that's nonsense. That most of Carter's crew lived long lives. That the deaths were all just overblown by tabloids. You know what you saw, and what you keep seeing. In your dreams now, Tutankhamun walks behind you, always a few steps back, silent. You feel his presence more than hear him. When you look over your shoulder, he's just gone. Except once. Just once you see him standing over your cot. Not angry, not mournful, just tired. And behind him, an endless hallway of sarcophagi, each one cracked slightly open, each one whispering. You wake up sweating, and outside your tent in the sand, bare footprints, child-sized. Section 5. You stop walking barefoot after that night. There's something unsettling about tiny footprints in the desert, especially when you know no children are part of the expedition, and especially when the prints vanish halfway across camp, as if the owner just floated into the air. You don't talk about it. No one does. But you all start watching your step a little more, speaking a little softer, as if the sand is listening. Then one morning, just after breakfast, you hear the scream. It comes from Carter's tent, high-pitched, sharp, desperate. You sprint over, tripping on a rope, heart pounding like a ceremonial drum. You throw open the flap, expecting to find a scorpion, maybe a jackal, or worse, another team member lying lifeless on the floor. But it's just the cage, the bird cage, the one that held Carter's lucky canary, the one he didn't bother replacing. Only now, the cage is upright again, and inside it, a freshly dead bird. You blink. You know this can't be right. No one's had a pet since the cobra incident. Carter is pale, frozen, staring at the cage like it just whispered something in his ear. "No one put that there," he mutters, and nobody admits to it. Later, a guard says he saw something flapping around in the night. Said it looked like a bird, but had no shadow under the moonlight. You laugh, but not too hard, because things have officially gone sideways. That same week, a workman gets bitten by a scorpion, under the tongue. Don't even ask how. He survives, barely, but can't speak for weeks. Another man finds a statue outside his tent, one of the ones from the tomb. It wasn't there the night before. Carter asks around. Everyone swears they didn't move it. No one touches anything unassigned now. It's not just the team either. The local Egyptians are whispering too. They speak of Ka spirits, ghostly doubles that linger after death. Of Hekau, ancient spells woven into objects. One old man points at a ceremonial dagger and refuses to come near it. He says it was meant for the blood of traitors, and only a fool would remove it from the tomb. You realize in moments like these that ancient Egypt wasn't just old, it was active. Every object meant something. Every carving, a spell. Every placement, a warning. Historians now admit some funerary items weren't just symbolic. They were tools, weapons, traps. Tutankhamun's tomb was unusually stocked with protective charms. Too many, even. Serpents, guardians, scarabs, statues of Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of war and disease, known for slaying the unworthy with plagues. Fringe theorists suggest it was more than protection. It was containment. But nobody really talks about that out loud. Instead, they start blaming the curse on Carter's canary. You know, the one that died before the tomb was opened? Locals say it wasn't just a pet, that yellow birds were traditionally seen as soul guides, that the canary absorbed the curse first, so Carter wouldn't. You laugh again, but your dreams are no longer dreams. They're scenes, replays, memories that aren't yours. You see Tut's coronation, brief, tense, overshadowed by priests in white linen whispering in the background. You see Ankhesenamun, his queen, half-sister, maybe the only person he trusted, writing a desperate letter to the Hittites, asking for help, for a husband, for protection. You feel fear, a different kind of fear, not the dread of death, but the terror of being erased. Tut wasn't just buried. He was buried and forgotten, intentionally. His name removed from lists, his memory smeared, his legacy denied. Historians still argue why. Was it a power grab by the generals who ruled after him? Was it vengeance for Akhenaten's heresy? Or was it something else? You remember that hidden chamber behind the wall, the one Carter found but didn't open right away. They finally decide to explore it. You help with the chiseling. The dust burns your nostrils. The wall gives way. And what lies beyond is wrong. Not more gold, not treasure. It's bare. It's quiet. And in the center, on a stone pedestal, lies a small bundle, linen-wrapped, child-sized, not Tutankhamun. Another a stillborn child. Maybe his daughter. Or maybe a decoy. You feel the room shrink. Your ears buzz. Your skin prickles like something's moving just beneath it. Then someone says, "We shouldn't have come here." You want to argue, but you don't. Because right then the lights go out. Not just in the room, across the whole site. Generators fail. Flashlights dim. Even your match won't strike. Everything falls silent. And then, Mahmed, in that silence, you hear it. A breath. Not yours, not anyone else's. Just one long, slow inhale coming from the shadows. You don't scream, not because you're brave, but because your body won't let you. When the lights finally return, the room is empty. Except for the bundle, and a single dusty footprint next to it. Barefoot, child-sized. Again. Cha. Section 6. You don't go back into that chamber. No one does. Officially, it's closed off for stability concerns. Unofficially, everyone agrees it just feels wrong. That little wrapped bundle? It's not touched again, not catalogued. Carter himself orders it sealed. You pretend it never happened. But things don't go back to normal, because, surprise, they were never normal to begin with. The tomb of Tutankhamun has become a circus. A shiny, golden, slightly haunted circus with extremely expensive tickets. The British press explodes with headlines. The curse claims another. The Pharaoh strikes back. Death in the dust. They can't get enough. And neither can the public. Newspapers sell out. Pamphlets are printed. Souvenir postcards show up with fake hieroglyphs that say things like, "You're next," in sparkly ink. One particularly classy tabloid runs a photo of the boy king's death mask with glowing red eyes. It's nonsense, of course. And yet, everyone believes a little bit of it. Even back in London, grown men cross the street to avoid shop windows displaying Tut replicas. A theater troupe cancels a play set in ancient Egypt after one actor spontaneously faints and claims to have seen the mask in the wings. Meanwhile, Hollywood goes full monster mode. Studios rush to produce the first wave of mummy horror films. You get The Mummy's Curse, Pharaoh's Revenge, The Tomb Walks at Midnight. And let's not forget the totally tasteful Mummy Baby. The ancient world is box office gold now, and none of it is accurate. You chuckle as you hear someone describe the Pharaoh's soul possessing a cobra who eats tourists. But you don't correct them, because part of you is starting to believe a cobra could do that. And while the Western world turns mummies into popcorn fodder, Egypt is watching. Quietly, resentfully. You overhear one local archaeologist muttering in Arabic, something about desecration and pride, about how the British treat the tomb like a carnival ride, that the gods won't stand for it. You remember that when your boots crunch something small outside your tent. You look down. It's a tooth. Human. Very old. No one's been digging near your tent. You keep walking. There's talk now of shipping some of the tomb's artifacts to Europe. To study them properly, so of course. You're told the golden mask, the jewelry, the chariots. These treasures will tour England and then France, maybe even America. It's educational, they say. It's robbery, others whisper. Historians now frame this moment as the peak of colonial arrogance, lifting a king's grave and passing it around for applause. But at the time, it feels normal, expected. Empire business as usual. You help pack the crates, and every night, you still dream. Now Tutankhamun walks beside you, not behind, still silent. But now he's guiding you, showing you things. A hidden chamber under the Nile, priests with black hoods, a boy crying as he's crowned, and over the same voice. They took everything, leave nothing for them. You wake up each time with a nosebleed, just a little. Maybe it's the dust. Meanwhile, Carter is growing more withdrawn. He doesn't attend the daily site meetings. He skips meals. You find him sitting in the tomb some nights, alone, whispering to the statues. When asked what he's saying, he just smiles. Practicing my prayers, he says, in case I ever need them. You find out later he's been visiting a fortune teller in Luxor. One of those old women who reads bones and smokes herbs that smell like ancient curses in a clay jar. Carter isn't superstitious, remember? Except now he wears a charm around his neck, a small bronze Anubis figurine, worn smooth from rubbing. Still think he's not worried? One of the dig site guards develops a fever. It climbs to 104. He starts babbling about a golden face in the fire. They fly him back to Cairo. He dies en route. You don't even write his name down. You're too busy trying to forget. One night, a gust of wind knocks over a crate filled with amulets. A black cat sprints out of the shadows, hissing like it's seen something ancient and hungry. It doesn't return. The next day, the statue of Sekhmet in the side chamber is found, cracked, right down the middle. No one touched it. No one goes near it now. And in the mess tent, someone finds a scorpion floating in the soup. You're done asking if things are coincidence. They're not. Back in England, someone publishes a book titled The Mummy's Curse, a tale of Pharaoh's wrath. It becomes a bestseller. The public eats it up like gossip at a haunted dinner party. You know half the details are fake, but some are a little too real. You flip to a chapter describing how a single misplaced artifact can bring misfortune across generations. One story claims a man who stole a ring from a sarcophagus was later struck by lightning. Twice. He lived, but couldn't remember his own name afterward. The next page has a sketch of a cursed amulet shaped like an eye. It looks a lot like the one Carter wears now. The team's medic, who also happens to be the only one who hasn't seen the tomb, starts keeping a log of strange symptoms. He notes insomnia, paranoia, fever dreams, mood swings, and, oh yeah, nosebleeds. You ask if that's normal. He frowns. Only when something's rotting inside. You don't sleep that night. Instead, you sit outside your tent, staring at the stars. You see Orion's belt, the same 3 stars that aligned with the pyramids, and for just a moment, you swear they move. Tilt, shift, point downward, right toward the tomb. Section 7. By now, you've stopped pretending this is just archaeology. You're not a historian digging through sand anymore. You're a guest overstaying your welcome in someone's gilded coffin. And Egypt, in all her silent, sunburned glory, has noticed. The locals aren't hiding their irritation anymore. They see you, and worse, they see what you're doing. Box after box carted away from the tomb, labeled with careful tags, sent up the Nile and out into the empire. Gold leaves Egypt again. Carter insists it's for preservation. The Cairo Museum isn't ready, he says. The climate could ruin them. You try to believe him, but you also hear him late at night, pacing inside his tent, whispering under his breath in broken Arabic and something older, something that doesn't sound like words at all. The political air thickens. Egypt is no longer the submissive colony of a decade ago. Nationalists are rising, and the people want their treasures back, not just for pride, for identity, for dignity. Tutankhamun is becoming more than a dead boy in a shiny mask. He's becoming a symbol. But Carter doesn't stop. If anything, he works faster. The remaining shrines are dismantled, and that golden throne, the one with the sun disk embracing the pharaoh and his wife, it's going next. You remember the first time you saw it, back when things still felt magical. Now it just feels like theft. Historians today frame this era as the beginning of cultural reclamation, a slow boil that would eventually demand that artifacts be returned. But at the time, you're just trying not to cough blood every time you enter the tomb, because now the air inside burns. Not like before. Not just old dust. Acidic, bitter, wrong. A few team members start wearing scarves over their mouths. One passes out completely. Another develops a rash shaped like a lotus flower. That one freaks you out the most. You help carry a wooden box out one morning. It's light, so you peek inside. Sandals. Worn, beaded, made for afterlife travel. They're delicate, beautiful, and soaked through with sweat. Not yours. You drop the box. No one says anything. Then come the protests. Outside the valley, small groups start showing up. Egyptians holding signs written in Arabic and French. They chant. They yell. They demand the artifacts stay. Carter files complaints. The guards start carrying rifles. You want to go home. But the dreams won't let you. Now Tutankhamun speaks. Not in full sentences, just fragments. Return it. She waits. Not yours. You wake up in the middle of the night, with your hand pressed against your chest, as if someone is trying to take something out of you. You're not bleeding. Yet. One afternoon, a windstorm barrels through the valley. Not a sandstorm, a targeted tantrum. It rips down tents, tears through crates, slams shut the tomb doors with such force the stone cracks. The statue of Anubis falls, breaks in half. That's the one that was guarding the chest. No one tries to fix it. Instead, Carter sets up extra lanterns. He starts bringing a chair into the burial chamber, sits there for hours doing nothing. Just watching the sarcophagus, muttering names you don't recognize. One night, you hear him whisper, Ankhesenamun, I'm sorry. You look her up. She was Tut's wife, his sister, and possibly the one person who truly mourned him. After his death, she tried to marry outside the royal line, a Hittite prince, but the prince was murdered on his way to Egypt. She vanishes from history shortly after. Some say she was executed. Some say she took her own life. Others believe she was buried alive, entombed in silence, punished for daring to reach beyond Egypt's grasp. You dream of her too now, not as a queen, as a shadow. She floats behind Tutankhamun, her face hidden by a veil soaked in ink. She weeps, and every time you try to look at her directly, you wake up gasping. Your tent is always colder when you do. Carter calls a meeting. He wants to push deeper into the cliff behind the tomb. Radar suggests something is there. A void, a chamber, maybe even another tomb. One not registered, one hidden deliberately. But this time, something stops him. Or rather, someone. The Egyptian Department of Antiquities sends a formal warning. Further excavation without permission will be punished. The French consul chimes in. The newspapers circle like vultures. And in the middle of it all, someone leaves a note pinned to Carter's tent flap. It's a single sheet of papyrus, modern, but the handwriting is angular and ancient. 4 words. The mask stays here. No signature, no footprints, no one saw who left it. Carter doesn't acknowledge it, but he doesn't try to move the mask again. Meanwhile, someone else dies. One of the men who handled the throne, collapsed in Cairo. Brain hemorrhage. The doctor says stress. You say timing. The man had nightmares for weeks before. Said he kept hearing music in his ears. Flutes, drums, voices singing in a language with no vowels. He wrote a note before he died. Just 4 words, over and over again. Don't take the chair. You wonder if it was his or Tut's voice he heard. The locals start avoiding you completely. Even the tea sellers. You notice your favorite spot under the acacia tree has been carved with a single hieroglyph, a vulture with outstretched wings. It means protection, or death, or sometimes both. You stop sitting there. Instead, you sit with Carter in the tomb, silent, staring at the mask. And deep in your gut, you know, the empire isn't shrinking just because of rebellion. It's shrinking because something ancient is waking up, stretching across time, whispering in ears, pulling at strings. And maybe, just maybe, it's had enough of being plundered. Section 8. By the time you return to the tomb, you know something's changed. Not because Carter says anything. He barely speaks now, except to the statues, but because the air has gone still. Too still. Even the insects seem to have fled. You used to swat flies every few minutes. Now nothing. Not a buzz. Not a chirp. Not a hiss of wind through the valley. Just silence. The kind that presses into your ears like water. You step inside the burial chamber, and for the first time you notice how small it really is. 4 walls, 3 coffins, a shattered guardian statue, and in the center, the boy. Or what's left of him. The coffins have been removed, the wrappings peeled away layer by layer, and now Tutankhamun's body lies exposed, like some grotesque autopsy long past due. The linen once meant to preserve him is brittle, charred. His flesh is blackened and clings tight to his bones. You remember how he was described at first. Perfectly preserved. Beautiful. Golden. Serene. You look at him now, and all you see is violence. Carter hasn't told the public yet. Not about the burns. Not about the broken bones. Not about the missing heart. The one organ the embalmers always preserved because it was weighed in the afterlife. But Tut's heart? Gone. Historians still argue about this. Some think it was destroyed by accident. Others think it was never included to begin with. That someone made a very specific decision to deny the boy king his judgment in the underworld. You swallow hard, because that doesn't sound like an accident. That sounds like punishment. Carter lowers a lantern closer. The bones flicker gold red in the light. His voice is barely above a whisper. They burned him. It's not a question. It's a confession. You walk out of the chamber and into the side room, the one with the shrines and statues still partially catalogued. The light hits a painted panel of Tut sitting beside his queen, Ankhesenamun. She's placing a garland around his neck. It should be a peaceful image, but the paint around her hands is smudged. You didn't notice that before. You wonder what she was holding before the paint ran. The room is cluttered with offerings, chariots, shields, beds, ritual jars. One of them still has something inside. You open the lid slowly. The smell hits first, sour, syrupy, sweet rot. Inside, preserved meat, beef wrapped in resin-soaked linen, for the afterlife. You put the lid back. Somewhere behind you, something small falls. You spin around. A scarab amulet is on the floor. You didn't touch it, but it's face down now. You walk back to the burial chamber, only to find Carter gone. In his place, a French Egyptologist named Derry is inspecting Tut's remains. He's frowning. "The body was desecrated," he says flatly. You nod. You know. The spine is snapped, the ribs shattered, the sternum removed entirely. Derry thinks it happened after death, but not long after. Maybe during the burial. Maybe by the priests. But why? He points at the missing sternum. That's where the heart goes. He doesn't need to say anything else. You already feel sick. Later, alone, you flip through a notebook left open near the statue of Anubis. It's Carter's handwriting, but the ink is shaky. One page reads, "I think they were hiding him, not burying. Not one tomb, two. One for the king, and one for the shame." That word hangs heavy. Shame. Why would Egypt be ashamed of Tutankhamun? He reversed his father's heretical policies. He died young. He had no heirs. He wasn't a tyrant. So why erase his name? Why mutilate his corpse? You dream again that night. But this time it's not the boy king. It's the embalmers. You see them working in frantic silence, pouring too much oil, wrapping the body quickly, whispering prayers that sound panicked. And behind them, always watching, a shadow in a lion's mask. Sekhmet, goddess of plague, goddess of righteous wrath. In the dream, she raises one hand, and the flame catches the linen like paper. When you wake up, your skin smells faintly of smoke. You don't even question it anymore. Instead, you help Carter clean out the remaining chamber. He's muttering again, counting objects. There's a stack of canopic jars, Tut's organs, tucked into alabaster cases. But they're oddly light. You open one. It's empty. Not just empty, scrubbed clean. No liver, no lungs, no stomach. That makes four things missing now: his heart, his chest, his dignity, and now his guts. You ask Carter where the organs went. He just shakes his head. We don't talk about that. You're not sure if he means we or they. Outside, a journalist tries to ask you questions. You don't answer. They want stories for the paper, spooky tales, dramatic deaths, glittering quotes. You want to leave. You start packing that night. But your boots are missing. In their place, a pair of sandals from the tomb, the beaded ones. You look around. No one's nearby. You don't scream. You don't run. You just sit down and wait for the sun to rise. Because you know now, Tutankhamun's body may have been hidden for 3,000 years, But the reason why? That was buried deeper than gold. Section 9. When the sun finally creeps over the cliffs of the valley, it feels less like morning and more like a slow interrogation lamp. You slip your own boots back on. Someone eventually returns them. No note, no explanation. And try to convince yourself that the beaded sandals were just a prank. Some twisted joke from one of the guards or Carter himself. Except Carter isn't laughing. And no one else dares step inside the tomb anymore. Except you. You go back because you need to know what's left, what's real, what's buried under layers of superstition and historical whiteout. And what you find isn't an artifact. It's a letter, stuck between two panels of gilded wood, fragile, water-damaged, half in ancient Egyptian, half in cuneiform. It takes time to decipher it, and you're no expert. But the fragments are unmistakable. It's a plea. From Ankhesenamun, Tutankhamun's widow. You read her words with a pit growing in your chest. She writes to a foreign king, a Hittite ruler named Suppiluliuma. She begs him to send a prince. She says she has no husband, no heir, and no power. She swears she will marry the prince if only he comes quickly. Desperation drips from every curve of the ink. What the textbooks will eventually confirm, and you now see firsthand, is this. The prince did come. And he was murdered before he made it to the palace. The royal advisors, Horemheb, the old guard from Akhenaten's heretic years, killed him. And soon after, Ankhesenamun vanished. Historians still argue whether she was murdered, forced to marry Ai, or disappeared into obscurity. But here, in your hands, is her voice. Real, personal, terrified. You realize something profound. This tomb wasn't just a burial site. It was a crime scene. Tutankhamun's death, his botched burial, the erasure of his name, the vanishing of his wife. All of it stinks of a palace coup, a cover-up, and you've been trampling around in it for months, treating it like a museum gift shop. That night, you light a single candle and sit alone beside the sarcophagus. The room feels quieter now, less hostile. Not peaceful exactly, but calm. You read the letter aloud. The ancient words echo softly in the chamber. You don't know if it helps, but something shifts. The temperature rises by just a degree. The stone under your hand loses its chill. And the dream that night? It's different. You're standing in a vast throne room. Sunlight pours through alabaster windows. Tutankhamun is alive, barefoot, no mask, younger than ever. He's not angry, not bitter, just tired. He says one word, remember. Then he turns to ash. When you wake, you're already holding your bag, packed, ready. You walk to Carter's tent to say goodbye. But he's not there. He's in the tomb again. You find him seated in the antechamber, holding a painted box. He doesn't look up. Found her earrings, he says quietly, still warm. You don't ask what he means. Instead, you leave. As you exit the valley, a sandstorm kicks up behind you. It doesn't chase you, doesn't threaten, just brushes your back with a gust that feels like a sigh. You don't look back. But when you get to Luxor, you send a letter to the Department of Antiquities. You request they reconsider the removal of Tutankhamun's remains from Egypt. You don't expect it to change anything. But that night, you sleep through the whole night for the first time in weeks. No dreams, no whispers, just sleep. And then, you never see Carter again. He dies several years later, not cursed, not struck by divine lightning, just quietly, at his desk. He lived longer than anyone expected, but his notes at the end grew strange. Fragments, obsessions, scribbles of names no one else could read. One margin just says, "She wasn't buried." You don't know who he meant. Ankhesenamun, Sekhmet. Someone else? But part of you suspects he found her, or she found him. Back in England, the museum exhibitions begin. The Golden Mask tours the world. People faint. People cry. People pay money just to stand near it. Tutmania hits in full force. Kids dress as mummies for Halloween. Men sell Pharaoh energy elixirs on the street. One woman swears she saw the mask blink. You don't visit the exhibit. You don't even read the headlines. You've had enough. But every now and then, when you're half asleep and the moonlight hits your ceiling just right, you hear soft footsteps. Bare, sand crunch soft. And you know, Tutankhamun never left that tomb, but he remembers who did. Section 10. Time drifts like the Nile itself, slow, steady, a little muddy, and soon years have passed since you last saw the tomb, the mask, or that cursed valley of dust and gold. But the dreams, they never fully go away. You're not haunted exactly, not tormented, but something remains curled up inside you, some residual presence, like a film of sand beneath your skin. You go about your days, pay your bills, stare out train windows, yet you always feel like a part of you never quite made it out of Egypt. And you're not alone. More deaths came, you hear. One archaeologist develops leukemia within months of handling some of the smaller statues. A museum worker in Paris slips into a coma after an unusual allergic reaction to a sealed jar. The head of a British restoration team chokes to death on a piece of beef during a gala dinner honoring, what else? Tutankhamun. You read the obituaries, quietly, without comment. A journalist once tries to rope you into an interview. You tell him, it's all exaggerated. Then you tell him, it's all true. He doesn't print either quote. One day, walking through a sleepy part of London, you pass an antiques shop. Something in the window makes you stop. You step closer, squinting past the reflection of gray skies and pigeons. It's a tiny replica of the Golden Mask, not full-sized, but the eyes, they're right. Too right. They catch the light in the same way. You leave before the shopkeeper notices you. Your life has become normal again. But normal feels thinner, more fragile. You can still smell the old resin sometimes. Still feel the way the tomb's silence pressed against your chest. Still remember that the boy's heart was never found. Historians still debate why. Maybe it was burned in the embalming disaster. Maybe it was stolen. Maybe it was never given to him in the first place. But you know better. You know they denied him judgment, that they robbed him of peace, and so the curse wasn't one of vengeance or violence. It was of restlessness. The boy king wandered for thousands of years beneath the desert, surrounded by treasure, smothered in oil and linen, denied even the small comfort of memory. Until Carter came. Until you came. And that's when something ancient cracked open. Now each museum that receives a piece of the tomb reports strange things. Lights flicker. Alarms trip for no reason. People feel watched. One night, a guard in Chicago claims to have heard music echoing from behind the sealed display case. He resigns the next day. Another visitor says the mask whispered a name. Not Tutankhamun. Yours. You don't go to museums anymore. And eventually, you stop telling people what you did. Not out of fear, out of respect. Because you finally understand what Carter may have realized too late. The tomb wasn't meant to be found. Not because of the gold, not even because of the boy, but because the grief inside it was still alive, still whispering, still waiting. And now we slow down. The tomb is quiet again. The sand no longer shifts beneath your feet. The statues have returned to stillness. The dreams, if they visit, drift more gently, like silk caught on the breeze rather than stone pulled by gravity. You're not in the valley anymore. You're in your bed, safe, warm, surrounded by soft things, familiar things. The scent of the desert fades, the whispers grow fainter, and the weight of all that ancient sorrow begins to lift, layer by layer, like linen unraveling. The boy is asleep now, not entombed, just resting. Whatever anger or confusion or loss lingered in those shadowed halls, you carried it far enough. It's tired now, you're tired too. Let your breath settle. Let the quiet hold you. Think of the moonlight washing over the cliffs, the coolness of the night wind after the sun has gone. Imagine the tomb sealed, not with fear, but with peace. A door closed not to imprison something, but to finally let it sleep. Let your mind wander now, across sand dunes, through forgotten corridors, past golden statues whose eyes no longer follow. There is nothing left to fear, nothing left to disturb. Only silence, only sleep, and maybe, just maybe, a thank you. From a boy king who waited far too long to be remembered.